이걸 나가면서 잠깐만요. 이쪽에서는 줌으로 앉으세요. 여기. 교수님 여기 학과장님 가운데 앉으십시오.
할 얘기도 없는데.
나도 없어요.
말 많이
잠깐만. 잠깐만요. 이렇게 하고 이쪽에서는 하고 이렇게 하고 이렇게 해서 놓고 이렇게 양쪽에서 이제 보이는 걸로 하고요. 잠깐만요. 교수님 조금 조셉이 저쪽 안쪽에 앉으라고 그러고 학과장님 여기 앉으시고 Hey Joseph.
I'm just posting one more time. We're live in 5 minutes.
Okay. So
you can kind of maybe look at these as some of the questions. You can kind of look at it and think about.
I posted on the what is it?
You sure you don't want to stand? Do you have a standing desk? No.
It is a standing desk. We can. Would it be possible? I mean,
because the chairs take up more room. It's okay. We can fit 3 chairs.
We can try.
Okay, yeah.
If it is not comfortable, we can just raise the level.
It'll be fine. It's just I'm just wondering if we can all fit.
Yeah. Let's try it. And then let's see.
Then we're gonna move out or stop
No.
to left there.
Oh, like
H left.
Oh, okay.
right.
Look at the times.
Right. You can.
We are living in the middle of the 21st century.
Right. So, Joseph,
You're living in the old days.
yeah, yes. You have water here.
So you should be, Andy should be where it's easiest to adjust.
Sure.
The middle or side.
And
Should probably take our masks off.
okay, so microphone is here.
Yeah, I mean that's
I hope
omnidirectional. Yeah, it should be fine.
Good. So,
Should we? So he could.
right.
So this is that's the camera, right?
That's the camera,
Yeah, so
and
we
then we have a second camera
So
over
we should look
here
at
as well.
we should look at that camera while we talk, right? Or else it's not going to look nice.
Right. You
Yeah,
can
we
also
should-
look at it over here
okay,
because
there's
it's a second microphone, the video
Oh,
camera.
you're gonna have 2 at once.
Two of them,
Oh my
yes.
gosh!
It's a Zoom-based one, and then this is live in the YouTube.
You are
So
you are a tech wizard.
I'm trying to wanna be right. Let's go.
Okay.
So-
okay, you put the questions.
The
out there.
questions over
yeah,
here.
yeah,
We
yeah.
can. Just a minute.
So you are here in this Zoom
Yeah,
video.
you gotta
Oh,
get a little closer.
I can squeeze in a little bit. Coming and going. Yes. So
Maybe turn this one a little bit
Yeah.
towards him a little more.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can all be in there.
That's
Great.
much better.
great. So now we can focus on this one.
Okay. So before we
yeah.
start, should we stay with one language? I mean, I know you're comfortable answering all these things in English. Can you answer? Do you want to try, or would you rather stay in Korean?
Korean and English.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you're
Yeah.
comfortable. This is for. I mean, honestly, I don't think anyone's going to come, but even if they do, you know,
Right.
this is kind of our first experiment, right?
Right.
So,
Welcome to Dr. Finance, our first live broadcasting in the YouTube. Hey, Joseph. Here is Professor Joseph Kim, and then Professor Youngbong Chang. And just to introduce a little more, Professor Youngbong Chang is the program chair of Global Business Administration of SKKU. And Professor Joseph Kim is a professor of business communication in GBA as well as SKKU Business School. Right. So welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. And yeah, so we see some more people coming in. Welcome, everyone. So
Glad
you
you're
can
here
type
today.
up
Yeah.
your message hi or any questions or comments that you have. Please feel free to write it. Even whether it is Korean or English, it doesn't matter. We go bilingual, so let's do it. Okay?
So how
Yes.
do you know how many person actually?
So there's a
in
number
live?
right there.
Oh,
Oh,
yes, it
so-
is here.
okay.
Yes.
Welcome
you can
to
see
the
it.
3. Our goal was 3 people, 1 per speaker. So
one,
we
one
have
each, right?
we have met our goal. So
Mhm.
thank you all 3 of you for joining us today.
Right.
All right.
So, what can we have kind of can we introduce ourselves about,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know, like how shall we proceed? Introducing ourselves?
Well,
or-
no, you gave a little introduction, so
Yeah,
I think we
right.
can just go right to the questions and
Good,
maybe
great.
talk about it.
So we Joseph kindly prepared a questionnaire, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so the first questionnaire he brought is, what are your top 1 through 3 top tips in getting a job in this market? So tips in getting a job.
Yeah, I'll go first.
Yes.
I think that one of the things that students often don't think about is they just think about maybe, I don't know, prepare my resume, get a cover letter, those kind of things.
Mhm.
But I think it's important, especially for business students, to start preparing a portfolio from even when they're younger.
Mhm.
So nowadays, it's pretty much guaranteed. It's guaranteed that when you apply for a job, they're going to search for your records on Google.
Mhm.
They're going to look on Google. They're going to look on Facebook. They're going to look at the HR
LinkedIn.
person, LinkedIn,
Yes,
Instagram.
definitely. Right.
And they're going to look to see, first of all, if there's not a good fit. Maybe they'll do something illegal or something that doesn't fit the company. But they're also
Facebook, yeah.
but they're also going to be looking to see if there's something more beyond that, of course. So if you have a portfolio that's set up, you can put in, for example, like I encourage my students, because I'm a communications professor, to maybe put in answer some job interview questions on their own website.
Mhm.
So for example, let's say your name is John Kim, a very common name, and you're johnkim.skku.com.
Mhm.
So you just get this URL and you start preparing not only your CV, maybe some key papers, but everything from like maybe like your public speaking skills. If you have a portfolio, if you've like won a contest,
Mhm.
you know, if you've like know certain languages, show proof of maybe your programming ability,
Right.
and put that all in there, because there's a middle step between the resume and the recruiter bringing you in for an interview.
Mhm.
So if you're able to do that, I think it's really, really helpful. And I'm surprised so many students don't want to do this, because
Right.
it's work.
Right.
Right. So like, for example, most of us professors do this. We have like a website, we put our research on there. We might have some talks. Obviously, Professor Kim is very excellent at doing this. But even for students to be able to do this, you know, and just put all their stuff on there, I think that's really helpful.
Right. Sometimes maybe having a GitHub page may be a good idea.
Yes. That's
if you're a tech
idea.
person, like you have Python coding skills, and then you want to demonstrate something, right? And then right. And any
any tips for
some of the things is like YouTube, not a YouTube, but the LinkedIn page, right?
Yeah.
Some students seem like very shy to have a LinkedIn page. Too shy to contact and then ask for connection.
Yes.
For professors or any seniors. Just wait passively until the professors approach me.
Yeah.
But I would say, please be proactive in connecting those seniors or any colleagues that you want to talk to, so that their information can get to you. Maybe I may have I may get some job information from Goldman Sachs or whatever company, JP Morgan. But if you are connected with me, then you may be able to see those opportunities. Whereas, if you don't get connected, no chance.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
Right. So that's one thing. Students need to be more proactive, I think. Right. And what else do we have? 지연, 요왕 24년 저 성대 갑니다, 무조건. Great. Welcome, Jion. I don't know who you are, but
we welcome you.
Great.
Come join us.
Welcome you. Right. Welcome. Yes.
Come join us.
And then what else?
What else? Do you have any
suggestions? job related.
job related.
Yeah. Do you by the way, do you have to wear the mask right now, or
He's a careful person.
You're right.
잡을 잡기 위해서 이제
네.
제가 생각하기에 이제 가장 중요한 거는 이제 일단 제가 먼저 생각했던 거 비슷한
네.
결로 있어요. Being aggressive.
Right, aggressive.
그거 말고 또 생각하는 것 중에 하나는 일단 말을 했을 때 굉장히 스마트하고 인투이티브하다는 느낌이 들었으면 좋겠어요. 그러니까 사실 5분만 얘기해 봐도 대략 알 수 있거든요.
저 선수 괜찮은 선수도 아니잖아요. 저 선수. 예.
그리고 실제로
그쵸.
우리가 이제 잡 인터뷰 갈 때 우리에게 주어진 시간이 5 work time.
그렇죠.
그
짧은
안에
시간에.
많은 것들을 보여주려면
아하.
사실은 평소 준비되지 않으면은 그냥 틀에 박힌 얘기만 할 것 같아요.
연습을 많이 해야 된다.
네, 연습을 많이 해야 되고 그리고 평소에 생각을 해야 되는 것 같아요.
예.
그래서 어떤 사안의 새로운 뭔가 현상 아니면
네.
새로운 내가 생각하지 못했던 사안에 대해서 질문을 받으면 그걸 빠르게 리트리브 해가지고 그 다음에 이제 그거를 내가 아는 것과 그리고 지금 그 컨텍스트에 맞는 그 안에서 대답을 할 수 있는 훈련이 필요하다고 생각을 하는데
네.
갑자기 되진 않아요.
그렇죠. 하루아침에 되는 게 아니지 이게.
갑자기 될 일은 없고요. 꾸준히 이제 연습을 해야 되는데 뭐 제일 처음 쉽게 시작할 수 있는 것 중에 하나가 그냥 뉴스
네.
보고 뉴스에 이제 뭐 제대로 된 리포트도 많지만 뭐 기자나 방송사에 어떤 견해가 들어갈 수도 있고 내가 꼭
그쵸.
그거에 동의할
동의하지.
필요는 없어요.
그렇죠.
동의할 수도 있고 좋으면 뭐가 좋은지 아니면 뭐가 아니 난 좀 실망스러운지 그런 것들을 평소에 계속
네.
크리틱한 생각을 갖고 준비를 한다면
그런 걸 좀 메모로 적어놓거나 뭐 이런 일기를 쓰듯이 이렇게 좀 기록을 남겨놓는 것도 한 가지 방법이지 않을까 싶어요. 그러니까 좀
그쵸,
보면서 그런
그쵸.
걸.
저는 하진 못했지만
나도 못했지만 그러나 그리고 또 한 가지는 참 우리 글경학과장님께서는 이제 잡마켓에 나오셨을 때 UBC, British University of British Columbia라고 캐나다 탑스쿨에서 잡을 잡으셨잖아요. 아니라고 겸손의 말씀을 하시는데 사실 경영학 쪽에서는 UBC가 독보적이거든요. 토론토 UBC 쪽이 이제 탑인데 거기서 인터뷰하셨을 때도 어떠셨어요? 그쪽의 분들 만나시면서 막 또 교수들 간에 보면은 인터뷰 많이 하루 종일 하잖아요.
인터뷰 할 때 제가
네.
느낀 거는 그래도 웬만한 학교에 이제 테뉴어드 프로페서로 계신 분들이
네.
그냥 된 게 아니구나. 역시 뭔가 한 방에 있는 분들이 있다라는 생각이 많이 들었고요.
네.
그걸 깨닫게 된 경위가 뭐냐면 사실 이제 논문을 발표하고 이러면은 뭐 어떤 논문도 100% 완벽하다라고 말할 수는 없죠. 다 이제 뭐 약간의 마지널한 컨트리뷰션이 있을 수도 있지만 또 어느 선에서는 뭐 조금
한계들이 있거나 구멍이 어딘가에
구멍이 있죠. 얘네들을 잘 숨기고 내가 컨트리뷰션 한 거를 하이라이트하고 그렇게만 시간이 갔으면 좋겠는데 이렇게 이제 잡 세미나를 하면은 내가 숨기고 싶은 부분만 계속 질문을 해요.
알지. 또 이 선수들이 또 장난 아닌 선수들이니까.
That's a really good point.
Right.
So if you think about what professors do, professors were highly specialized, right?
Right.
So there's an inverse proportion, an inverse relationship generally between how good you are at research and how good of an interviewer you are. So generally, I've noticed like the better you are at research, the worse you are at interviewing. And and the other way, the better you are at interviewing, your generally research is not as strong. I mean, it's just a general
trade-off, I guess.
Yeah. So what does this
how do we
mean? I think
strike
Professor
balance?
Chang talked about this is that like you have to prepare early. Like if you know that you're good at research, then you should prepare the more softer skills like communication and writing and these things earlier in your career.
Right.
And the other way, if you're like good at talking, you're good at connecting, you're good at networking, then work on some papers, work on some projects so that you can have something on your resume. So I think that's an excellent point. Yeah, it's generally this kind of opposite.
Yeah, actually, what I when I remember my job market period, one of the hardest thing to me was having dinner with the dean.
The dean, right? The boss.
That means you are an excellent researcher.
No.
They like you.
Yeah, they like it. Yeah, that's very.
But it was very hard because I have nothing to tell him regarding some life in Canada.
Right.
And Canadians are crazy about ice hockey.
Ice hockey.
I have never watched that. So that kind of thing, I think, even if you do not prepare in early stage, it's gonna be really hard.
For sure, that's excellent advice. Yeah. Right, preparing much earlier than we would think. Right.
Because people, right. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like most students prepare like maybe like their last year.
Yeah.
Right. The fourth year.
Yeah,
like
fourth year or something like that. Yeah.
Or even fifth years. Like, then until then they prepare for CPA exam and then 공무원 시험 only, and then later on only 1 year left. Holy cow!
Yeah. Now they have to like spend all this energy on there.
So we all should get prepared. Maybe even for our first year, I think. Right, or get a sense of it, this kind of things, early stage, I guess. The experience counts.
For sure, earlier the better.
And then you talked about having dinner together with the potential employers, right? And that is a great opportunity as well as challenging time to show the social skills. 사회적으로, it's like how good is it, right, this guy?
Because if you get to the dinner stage, that means they're 90% already willing to hire you.
Right.
Yeah. It's like if a young couple wants to date each other, it's like meeting the family. Like that's like the last stage. So once you get there, it's but like you said, it's still difficult because you have to come up with a topic and like you have to talk.
Right. And then it's kind of hard to feel like I'm one of them, make them feel like I'm one of them. It's kind of pressure, right? So how can we be more confident in that kind of setting?
And it's hard, like for professors, we're hired mostly based on research or other things.
Right.
And especially if you're middle or more senior, you have a track record, right? So they have your, but what about entry-level jobs? Do you have any thoughts on entry-level jobs where you have no track record?
Yeah, right.
Where they are hiring you based on potential only.
Right.
No track record. Yeah. So
that's a tough time, I guess.
And of course, our students, they do get jobs in these fields. They work for companies like Goldman Sachs or McKinsey and consulting or whatever it is that they do, Samsung everywhere, right?
Right.
But
so
how do you think people can get a job, an entry-level job, when they have no experience in this field?
Well, one of the things that come to my mind is number one, internship. If you get a lot of internships, then there will be, a lot of people get to know you. You get to know a lot of people around that profession, so that they will talk about you. So hopefully, it's something positive. Not a bad thing. And then it's a small world in those small professions, I guess. If you just go the investment bank. They're a small group over there. It's just marketing. They know each other. So they will have some good words for you, hopefully, good reference. Number two is a school name, I guess. Some of this title.
Hyunjun, how you doing? Welcome. Hey, glad you're here. Glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being number 4.
Right. Welcome, everyone. Right. So those things come to my mind as well, right?
Yeah, I think the networking possibilities, a lot of young students, they don't think about networking with like someone much more experienced than them, because the idea is like, well, if I'm like a young college student and you're like a 10-year investment banker, like what do I have that I could give you? And people don't understand just how everything, even something small like buying coffee, bringing like a coffee coupon. I mean, okay, it seems like it's bribing, but these things work. And so, for example, there's a great idea of networking. So I was reading about this young man who got a job at, I don't remember what company, but it was like some top consulting company and in New York. And what he did is brilliant. So his hobby was taking pictures. He's a young man, like maybe 19 or 20. And he went to a car show.
Okay.
And the kind of people that own expensive cars at car shows are usually very successful.
Right.
But they're generally older.
Right.
So he started taking pictures for free. And he said, hey, I'm going to take your picture and I'm going to put it on my website. And so he would like develop a relationship with these rich car owners. And then he would just tell them, hey, I'm looking for an internship here. I'm looking for, do you think you could help me? So, I mean, that's a great way to network. You're giving value before you ask for something.
That's creative.
Yeah, it's very creative.
Another thing that comes to my mind is preparing some kind of thank you card when you meet people.
Yeah.
Like this is the tip that I used in my job market in the university job searching, and in NTU and Cambridge everywhere. After having an interviews, I left my thank you card. It's just the card, a classic card with the school name on it. In my case, I graduated from Minnesota, so University of Minnesota card. Okay, just open it, and then I said thank you for your time and then attention on my research, and I look forward working together with you in the future, and with my handwriting, right? 손편지, right? So nothing more than that. It's not a bribe. Just write it, and then left it on the their office when I was leaving, and my friends back in NTU, Simba Chang, told me about this, and there were a lot of great candidates, but you were impressive because your card was on my desk as well. And I just happened to grab it, and then why don't we just hire this guy, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's a human touch is there. So that's one thing, and then it shows I think your pride in your school. You don't have to be fancy Harvard or if it is going to be Harvard and you say I'm from Harvard, and you sound like very how do you say, arrogant, but I'm from SKKU, and then here's my SKKU card that shows your reasonable degree of pride in your school, and then people like that kind of pride in their own organization they belong to. So.
And like I said, even something small, I know that we don't want to bribe somebody, but even like I remember this one student, she actually gave me a lollipop. I don't eat lollipops, but I've only received one lollipop in my life. So I remember the student. So if she asked me for help, I would probably help her because she gave me a lollipop. She never asked for my help. So these are small things that like students can do just to remember you. And especially like in the case of if you want to network with someone, the higher rank they are, they don't need your gift.
Right.
So like, for example,
anyway.
if you want to work in private equity, anybody who's worth meeting in private equity is already very wealthy. So it's not about bribing them with the gift, but the little gift or connection is like a gateway.
Right.
Here's let's have coffee together, and here's a coffee thing, or let's have, I'll take a picture for you, or I'll do some kind of networking opportunity where you're giving something before, because everybody loves to get things, right?
So do you think Joseph's idea that is perfectly matched to Korean situation, Korean community?
That's a good question.
The Korean culture, right? Maybe not that much applicable for Samsung or whatever companies, corporations. Oh hell no! I know, right? They're like no chance. But for foreign banks and then maybe not a consulting, big consult, but the small companies, right? Small foreign companies, they're maybe much more open for this kind of opportunities.
For sure. And actually, if you look at, I think that Korean students should also be more open about working for foreign companies, not just like Korean techie-ups, like large corporations. Right. And there are, for example, like Nike has a big presence here. They're a foreign company. Google has a big presence here. If you think about all the foreign companies or foreign subsidiaries that are in Seoul, I mean, like we can just expand your mind to all these different. And of course, there's still Koreans there, but they don't follow all the the rules.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
it's not exactly the same. Obviously, if you want to work for Samsung and a typical Samsung department, yes, it's going to be very Korean. But
Highly structured, and then there's no way of making your own ways, right? For Samsung or whatever, it's
Yeah.
too rigid over there. But
yeah,
for smaller companies, or how do you say, more informal,
yeah,
sushi cheong kind of things, right? That's getting more like foreign companies' hiring process.
yeah.
So that's where you can make yourself do it.
That's fun.
Right. Any other thoughts? Yeah. What are the tips in getting job market? Yeah. I was thinking like the students need to meet professionals from the field. Okay. And then let
Very
yourself
important.
known to those persons. For example, next week we're going to have a job GBA event, right?
Job GBA today, I think.
Oh, today. Great,
Yeah.
great. So what time is it, please?
7 p.m. I think.
7 p.m. You heard it? 7 p.m. Yes. And then the places. I mean, could you come closer here? And then, right. So what place?
International Hall. I don't know room number.
Yeah.
The biggest classroom maybe, and then the international hall. Right. 7 p.m. Yes. Great opportunity. Come and see the person and talk to the guy and get their name cards.
Yeah, that'll be great.
And then let yourself know.
Especially in Korea,
Right.
people really go out of their way to network and help people who went to the same school or have some school connection. It's so
Right.
strong. School is one of the top 3 networking,
Mhm.
Vehicles for Koreans. So
Right.
yeah, people should just generally use it as much as possible. Meet
Mhm.
alums, talk to other SKKU graduates or whatever school you went to, and then
Right.
try to network with them. And like as a sambae, as like an older person,
Right.
please help me.
Right.
And Koreans always seem to help.
Yeah.
Like wouldn't both of you went to very good Korean universities? Wouldn't you help somebody if they even randomly if they
It's
said,
like-
I went to the school and
It's like a knock and the door will be open for you. Please. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody gives a snake. If you, and the Bible says that, right?
yeah.
Who will give a snake to the one who is just asking for help, right?
For sure.
So it's just a human nature. Everybody is willing to help you.
Yeah.
But the thing is, people don't usually ask.
And they have to ask nicely, or they have to offer something as they ask. Yeah.
Right.
So
And then, even if it is not the alumni, right? We invite a lot of guest speakers.
Yeah,
Right.
lots of guest speakers.
From the industry, and students should, I think, utilize that and then participate and come and talk to them. It's it's something I just feel pity about. When students usually don't show up in the guest speaker situation, unfortunately. Why? Because they are preparing for 공무원 시험 or like a CPA.
They're too busy
exam.
and not able to.
I love CPA, great, okay, but you have equally great chances over here.
It'd be a great opportunity.
Yes,
to be able to do those kinds of
opportunities,
things.
and then socialize yourself. Right. And then the 학과장님 and then all these professors are working for you to invite those guest speakers. So come.
I mean, to another point, some students ask me, they say, well, I've asked a lot of professors for help, but they don't seem to help me. And the first thing I ask them is, what grade did you get in that class? So that's one. Professors tend to help A students more, naturally. But second, were you one of those A students that just studied by yourself, or did you go to the professor's office hours? Did you try to meet with them and talk with them and establish some kind of connection or relationship? And then they're much more willing to, I mean, we all go out of our way to help people that we think are nice to us and help us. And professors or anyone else, we're humans like anyone else. So if someone is nice to me, I'm nice to them. It's just a fact of life.
Right.
So.
Right.
But for sure, students,
Yeah.
one way to get help is get an A in the class. That's very helpful.
Hopefully,
Because we have a lot of students. We don't always remember students, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, getting A is very important, but before then you must study hard and you prepare well for the exam.
Yeah.
Otherwise, professors think that, oh, you didn't study very well, and your score was you gave me almost a blank sheet for midterm. Then you ask me, I want to do something, please help me.
Right.
Well,
So leaving any questions blank is the worst strategy.
Yeah,
in
it's
the
not a
exam.
good story. Yeah, say something.
Write something and we give you something. If you don't write anything, we cannot give you anything, right? So that's the important strategy. Having said that, I'm not a straight A student in my college days. So
Neither was I.
me neither.
But usually, like for example, like Professor Kim here teaches finance, and it's not A grade that's as important, but he's interested in people who are interested in finance because he loves finance. So if I was in his class, maybe he wouldn't like me because that's not an area that I'm interested in. But a finance professor is interested in students who are very much interested in finance. I mean, I teach communication. I'm very much interested when students say, hey, what about this? What about this?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's relative to my field, I pay extra attention to those students because they can be potential professors or potential workers in that field or whatever, So
having said that, have you brought your book?
Oh, yeah.
Power
Sorry.
7.
Yeah.
Where is the...
It's a shameless plug.
Here
Professor Kim
we
wants
go.
me to plug my book.
Yes,
here.
Professor Joseph Kim's book.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, so I actually use this in this is like a textbook of sorts, and it just kind of details the little things that I've worked in, not only in my research but also, for example, in things like companies, even something basic like this. Like if you're able to see here, so these are two different ways that females can sit. I've never worn a skirt or dress before, but I'm very aware of how females sit, in particular, more than males, because they have to wear a skirt or a dress sometimes if they want to. And when it comes to a job interview or engaging with some, how you sit really makes it like sitting like this versus like sitting up, open posture. It really makes a difference. And professors you're probably not even aware that you remember in class. Well, this is all before Corona. Like, oh, this person looks attentive. They're sitting up. There's others that are like, slumped in their chair and like, like even on Zoom, can't you tell when students are like, they're playing a game or reading some art? They're like, they're looking right at the camera, but
busy with something else.
Yeah.
Something
I've had
going
students like smoke in my class.
All right.
Yeah. And I'd be like, could you not smoke? I mean, you could smoke after class, but not during class. It's distracting.
Oh my God.
Or
Yeah.
like I had one, mostly foreigners. Korean students generally don't do this, but I had one foreign student. He was like eating like a big sandwich. Wow. So I didn't take a screenshot. It was kind of amusing, but these are ways not to get a good connection with the professor, right? You wanna show the professor,
more sincere. Yes. And another thing is those disciplines. How do you say? Finance also we integrate with other psychological part of studies. So body language, facial expressions, and then voice pitch, all these kind of things, we also study, right? I also study and see how those things are connected to the stock price. If it is the voice pitch of the, who is it? The Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk's facial expression.
Yeah.
How does it affect the Tesla stock price and that kind of things? We are merging everything together. It's a fusion. So what I'm saying is not only finance, but also all other aspects of business interest me. So we are open, right?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. So talk to us, talk to the professor. Yes.
So before we get to the next question, if anyone out there is interested in having us talk about anything, please use the chat room.
Yes.
And let us know. Don't just lurk in the background, but please be involved. We'd love to
now
answer.
We have a people watching.
We'd love
Great.
to. We'd love to answer your questions. What's some of our other questions?
Other questions? Yeah. Maybe this thing we should talk a little bit. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, feel free to talk about anything.
I mean, what I was hello, Professor. Yeah, 현채은, 반갑습니다. I joined a bit late, so I didn't get to hear the first part of the live, but I think you were talking about the importance of preparing for our careers early on. Yes, early on. Maybe as early as freshman. Yes.
For sure.
Yes, I am a current sophomore, but I am unsure of what to do over this coming summer break. Do you have any suggestions for us to do something productive? So 여름방학 때 2학년인데 여름방학 때 뭐 어떤 거 하면 좋을까 궁금해하는 학생, 우리 현채은 학생이었습니다. 반갑습니다. So any suggestions or any ideas?
For me, I would say it depends. I mean, almost any job can be useful. Of course, you might be working, I work at a fried chicken restaurant or McDonald's. Is that really going to help? It can help if you can work in a way and describe the job so that it's valuable to employers. For example, let's say that you work at a restaurant and you work hard at the restaurant, but instead of just being a server, if you can show that you can lead other people, even in that capacity, that's valuable leadership experience. So for example, if you were the youngest assistant manager at the McDonald's branch and you kind of detail that in your resume, that's very much an important part of learning skills, being able to lead people. So a lot of students think that these kind of softer skills don't help them, but they're totally wrong. It absolutely helps them. This is a story from many years ago. I had and this is back when I was a college student, so over 30 years ago, but one of my friends, he applied for this job at Nike as they had this young leaders program. Okay. And this guy he's like your typical quant jock, a finance nerd, but at our church, he was a small group Bible study leader. So he talked about that. So when they asked him, they said, hey, do you have any leadership experience? And again, he's a typical quantitative jock, meaning that he's a number cruncher, right? And he like didn't know what to say, and he goes, "Oh, at my church, I lead a small group." And they, during the interview, they say, "Well, what do you do?" And he says, "Well, there's 6 young men in this group, and I call them, and we meet at church together." So he started kind of detailing there, and to his shock,
right,
he got the sort of leadership track there. So Nike back then had this fast track where instead of taking the traditional 4 to 8 years to get your first junior manager's position, they had like a 2-year fast track.
Right.
And he was picked in the top 5%.
Wow.
Because they were looking for someone with his background, but amongst all the people in his background, almost none of them had any leadership experience. But he did. So maybe for Korean companies, it's very different. But for a lot of foreign companies, these leadership experiences, so I'm just saying, don't discount even something like volunteer leader.
Right.
Could be church, could be some nonprofit club, could be, so being able to lead others at a young age and to actually have proof, some kind of demonstration that you've done that is such a valuable asset. It's a valuable asset in today's world. And I think students don't think about this as much.
Many Koreans may be skeptical about this kind of approaches of telling their the summertime McDonald's hamburger flipping experience kind of things. But by saying like this, oh, maybe, anybody can, tell a lie about it and then, say something that I did not do and then just say it over there in the resume, falsely saying or whatever. That is one concern the Korean students may have because of the cultural difference over here. It's kind of very shy, the students are, and the culture is in the first place, the seniors are. But at the same time, in criminal psychology, in forensic psychology, they say, if you are telling a lies, right, then the words that you use will be a lot more generic instead of being specific. So as long as you really get the experience and then try to remember what you did and then extract the lesson that you learned, and you leave it as your diary or something, and then you can tell the story that you experienced in more detail, and that really delivers that you really experienced. and so that will set you apart from telling lies, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing I want to tell. And another thing I want to advise to this second year student, right, Hyun-cheon, is that I think the students should try to avoid high school kids, teaching high school kids, or tutoring high school or elementary school kids. Why do I say avoid it? Because it's still in your comfort zone. If your career purpose is to become 대치동 1타 강사, great, go ahead and do it, man, and then figure out what's the best way of teaching it. But as long as your career goal is not there, it's not going to help you. And then repeating what you learned in your high school will get you back to the exam setting, and instead of getting into the real world job experience.
That's
so your culturally, you will have to adapt to this new environment. But the tutoring may force you back, and then you may think about something else, which means like, oh, 수능 시험 한 번 더 봐. One more time, let me try it. It's a complete waste of time. Okay, it's a complete waste of time. The thing is, the tutoring gives so much money.
Yeah,
like 70만 원, 60만 원 per month, per teaching. So it's a big temptation for the students. But I say, don't go there, right? Yeah. Even if you go for a coffee shop barista work, right? That's fantastic. It's much better.
It's actually very good advice to, and of course every student is different, but like as Chen said, what should I do? If you are able to, I guess it kind of depends on your parents' financial status even, but if you can find a job, any job even, that can allow you to develop these skills that you're not learning in school.
Right.
So like, she's taking my class. If you're taking my class, you know that I always talk about, look, we all have this focus on hard skills, right? Like test taking, management, but to learn, you can call it soft skills or human skills or life skills. To learn more of this, I think it's so much better because you can actually put that on a resume.
Right.
Again, things like leadership, things like communication, things like maybe entering a contest or doing internships where you're challenged a little bit to do something more than just what you would do at school.
Right.
So if you can find an opportunity like that, and especially I think for young Koreans who are generally used to test taking, I mean, the number one area that I would recommend is find some job, even if it's low paying, where you can really demonstrate clear leadership skills over other people.
Right.
And that's not something that a high paying job will give you very easy, but a low paying job will.
Right.
Volunteer leader. So some of you are involved in church or other nonprofit groups, and I think that's very useful.
Yeah. And one more
question.
Question's great. Hello, Professor. I am wondering, how do you measure the psychological behavior? For example, in behavioral finance, how do you quantify CEO or investor as overconfidence?
That's a
good question. Right. Are you in my class?
Question.
An Jae-hong, you're not in my class right now today, right? Or is he? We're going to learn about it in next week's class, right?
So Professor Kim uploads his lecture, so watch his lecture on this.
Option holdings, call option holding. Why don't you exercise it but keep it over there? That's a sign of overconfidence because I am so sure. And things like that. And language tone as well.
No, he's from a different college.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And, different college.
Yeah.
Good. I have a paper about self-attribution bias. It's about, good things, that's because of me. And bad things because of them.
Because of the
right?
people,
Because the word, right? We do the text mining and then identify those, measure those degree of attribution bias. That's going together with overconfidence. Anyway, thanks for asking.
Yeah.
And then,
so please look up his paper on the topic.
Yeah. Chang Liu. Yeah, my bachelor school is not a top school in China. Do you have any suggestions that if I want to go into a top consulting firm or internet firm? By internet firm, I guess you're talking about ICT venture companies, I guess.
Maybe Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon, right?
Or something
Google,
like that.
right? Tough. Good question.
It's a good question. One way
Right.
that students, I guess, who are not from top schools can upgrade their skills is to associate themselves with like a top company. For example,
Right.
like Google offers lots of courses,
Uh-huh.
whether it's programming or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So, and the name,
Certificates
yeah,
kind of-
certifications.
Uh-huh.
So then the name will pop out.
I see.
For example, I took
Right.
this Google course on such and such.
Uh-huh.
And then really dive deep and learn those skills
Right.
so that you can apply.
Uh-huh.
But probably in Asia, yeah, it looks like
Right.
Su
China.
Chang is from
Yeah.
China. So in China, obviously, name schools is a much bigger deal.
Right.
You know, in Asia, it's a much bigger deal than in other parts of it. So my recommendation would be to try to, in those situations, upgrade your skills, especially, again, taking a Google courses are great.
Right.
They're so inexpensive. For example, if you want to take a Google course in data analytics,
Right.
you get roughly the same thing as you would in a master's program. But a
Mhm.
master's program in data analytics would cost a lot more money. Google, it's like maybe $8,000 and you can get almost all the training.
Uh-huh.
And because you're certified, because you take the tests,
Right.
so that would be one way to kind of upgrade.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. 什么地方 are you from? 您从什么地方? Like Zichang Liu. I'm just welcome here, right? Thanks for asking. And then we hope you
Okay, let's go to the next
success
question.
over there. And then Hyunjun, to my fellow GBA chair, in my
Open
case, I
to-
realized more and more classes that are open.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah. So she says they started making friends with exchange students and
Yeah.
networking with them and
Yes.
asking their career path.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So actually, this happened. I had a German exchange student who was one of my students, and then he got a job in Thailand, and he was looking for interns who wanted to come to Thailand. And I posted it on my Instagram, and I think
Right.
one of our GBA students or two of them actually applied for this.
Oh,
So he works for Mercedes-Benz
Wow.
in Thailand, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And they were looking for an intern, and they're looking for somebody preferably from Asia. So
Right.
yeah, so there's lots of opportunities there
Uh-huh.
in making exchange student friends.
Right. I mean, we have a lot of incoming exchange students in our
So
school,
many, so
right?
many.
And then there are great opportunities. You guys, make friends with as many international exchange students as
Yeah.
possible.
I mean, it's a little bit harder during this Corona era, right? We used to
Right.
offer these networking nights.
right.
We used to have meals together, but
Right. So
yeah,
it's gonna, hopefully,
hopefully we can start doing a little bit more.
Departments
You
here.
know.
right?
So yeah, and welcome.
Yeah. How are
glad
you?
you're here.
Yeah.
So yeah, any other questions? Please
Right.
let us know. We're just having a conversation
Right.
here.
So we keep on talking.
Yeah, and then
And
we have some
even
questions
the
for-
job tips, right? One of the things I found out yesterday is that writing cover letters when you write resume. And there was one guy now he's working for Morgan Stanley in
Oh.
private equity in global business administration guy. And then when he found out that the Morgan Stanley guys told him that he was one of the few guys
Yeah.
who sent them a cover letter
Oh,
together with resume.
yeah.
Most of the other guys were not.
They don't.
know,
They just send
writing
resume. Yeah, young people
Right.
don't do
Yeah.
cover letters. That's like old school
Yeah.
way of thinking.
Right, but the employers are old school guys in the first
Very much,
place.
very much
like,
so,
Like
yeah.
us, right?
Yeah.
We are all 7년
Yeah.
right? It's like a GT,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
We like those letters, and so you write it in English. How do I get my English correctly? Well, you have Professor Joseph Kim here, and you have exchange students. They can also help you, right? If you just make friends and then ask
For
them
sure,
a
for
little
sure.
bit, and then buy some lunch, right? Yeah,
I think that's a really good idea because when we applied, so compared to this generation, when we applied to a job,
Mhm.
it was guaranteed that somebody would read our resume because maybe there were 100 applicants,
Right.
maybe a desirable job had 200 applicants.
Mhm.
I mean, Google routinely, especially because of remote work, they get literally sometimes 5,000 applicants for
Uh-huh.
one entry-level job. And these
Mhm.
5,000 applicants are all over the world because it's a
Right.
remote position. So the amount of competition that these students are going to have to face is It's not 10 times more than us. It's 100. It's 1,000 times more.
Right, from
The
all around the
competition
world.
is stiff.
At
It's
the same-
very stiff. Yeah.
At the same time, our SKKU students, you guys can apply for all around the world job opportunities.
For sure,
like
for sure.
Shanghai, or maybe Shanghai is not good right now because of the coronavirus
Yeah.
situation, but hopefully it will improve. But any place in the
And
world.
we've done pretty well, right? So
Yeah.
can you tell us, Professor Chang, like in the last maybe 3-4 years,
Right.
so he's the current director of the GBA and he's the
Right.
previous director. So between you two,
Yeah.
what are some places that people, maybe you can just list, what are some places that some of our students have worked at? So like for example, Hong
Target,
Kong, like
Target Shanghai.
Target Shanghai.
Soyun was working there.
Yeah.
And then in terms of permanent positions, right now, Yoon Sung-cho is in Hong Kong Goldman Sachs. And then, some Bloomberg Hong Kong, we also have some.
Yeah, Bloomberg Hong Kong. We had one student,
Yumi.
she was working in,
Right.
she worked for Amazon, right?
Right.
Amazon, was it Amazon Korea?
Amazon
Yes.
Korea.
Amazon
Yes,
Korea?
yes.
That's awesome, yeah. And then we have our usual Samsung, LG, those folks as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of great places the students have been working. They are one of those guys who are more proactive
Yeah.
and then reaching out, right?
Well, that's interesting. All those
Right.
students that you talked about were
Right.
proactive.
Right.
Proactive. They were like trying to get stuff.
Yeah.
And like I think about one of our students, both Andy had her and I had her. She works for McKinsey right now, right? In
Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan,
Yes.
and she had many opportunities.
Right. Indiana.
And I remember her just being a
studied
very proactive student,
Right.
almost to the point of being annoying.
Right.
She would ask me for feedback on her presentation.
Right.
I'm like, okay, this student. But again, that showed that she wanted it. I mean, of course, I could say no,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But she kept on asking.
Yeah.
And I remember she kept on asking me for feedback. Do you think this is okay? Should I move my hand this way? Should I turn my body? And then
Right.
later, many years later, I found out that she got a job at McKinsey. And I said, oh, no wonder.
Right.
It's that kind of determined student that gets that kind of job.
As far as I remember her, probably 5 years ago,
Right.
she was
Dana.
Dana.
Right.
She was really active in my class. Actually, my class is more quant oriented.
Yeah.
Yes.
So-
Quant jocks. Right?
Yeah, it's a quant job.
So I know, and I have observed that most students don't like my class.
we have this is the Michael Jordan of quantitative jocks here in Korea, and this is LeBron James here. So yeah, they don't look like it, but they are quant athletes, of the highest caliber here.
After class or in the middle of class, she always approached me and asked me questions a lot.
Right.
And also, I feel that she was very, very active
Mm-hmm.
along with other Korean students.
What was the name of the class that you taught? Do you remember?
At the time, operations management.
Okay, so
Operations
think about how
management.
different this is. This is operations management. And
Yes.
she was under my undergraduate business communication class. These two classes couldn't be more different.
Yeah.
But the characteristic of the student is exactly the same. I think that's
Right.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Right.
like generally people who are good at this class would probably not be good at my class, and people who are
That's-
good at my class would probably not be good. But yet this student went out of her way in two completely different types of business fields to ask questions, to be really, in a nice way, be aggressive,
Yeah.
Right.
and be really like take charge of their
That is
class.
what the business education is great about. So make you an all-round player, right?
Oh, we hope.
Right.
Yeah.
It's train in different aspects.
Yeah.
Right.
Look
so,
at Jung-hun. Hey, Jung-hun, good seeing you.
Jang Jung-hun.
I remember you.
Hi.
Yeah, he took
Fintech
our
class in
classes.
GBA. Hey, how are you?
Yeah.
Hey. And offering such a precious opportunity to share your ideas. Great.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Hey, right.
Okay, so
Welcome.
Yongbin says
Yongbini.
here,
And thank you for having such a great opportunity. I'm a sophomore majoring in social welfare, and I am really thinking about my future job. All right. My original goal was to be a diplomat. However, recently I am getting interested in the business field, especially in finance. Okay. And I'm worried because what I should prepare for is totally different between two jobs.
Two different fields.
The diplomat and then finance.
Finance, two very different.
But in different aspects, they are to finance guys. Everything is finance, right? It's like
the world is a giant
international
number,
world. Is driven by money. Of course, money is not everything. Forget about the price tag, right? But the diplomatic, how do you say? International finance is there for you as well. International marketing also exciting, and international business also exciting. Whereas diplomat is like more boring, I think.
Well,
I'm sorry for
depends. There's a finance professor. Finance professor. So if you think about what a diplomat does, right? So there's obviously, if you work for a big organization or you work for a big country like the United States or the European Union, there's very type of. But generally, at core, when you think about what diplomats do, these are human relationship jobs. They're jobs that manage human relationships. So if you think about that, even in the field of business, we have things like anyone who's interested in sales, anyone who's doing any kind of client interface, you're managing this human relationship, you know? And so being able to take courses in this field in business, I think you could prepare yourself to do both.
Right.
You could take communication courses, you can take marketing courses, you can take all these things, because again, diplomatic stuff is how is managing these human relationships that we have.
Right. I'm sorry for being a little bit offensive to diplomat majors. You're great. But at the same time, what I'm saying is diplomatic is more bureaucratic side, which is not, to me, it's not as fun. Okay. But for business, it's much more dynamic. Okay. Marketing and strategy, international business, much more dynamic. And then diplomatic political power. Yeah, that's great. But behind it, we have commercial power going on. And essentially, the real power comes from our businesses.
But diplomats also work in things like trade. They have to think about getting having trade agreements. So, for example, like if you're a diplomat from a foreign country in Korea, let's say you're from Germany, and you're the German diplomat here to Korea, then you have to think about how Mercedes is going to function here, how these German companies would do here. So, it actually does go across business lines as well.
Right. Together with it, right? And Soyun, as a fresh graduate, I got offer in the multinational company Target, isn't it? Right? Great.
But she said her payment level is
so high compared to Korean company. I know.
Okay,
I know.
so let's talk about this a little bit. Okay, so
realistically,
if you, so this is a story. I won't name the company, but I know someone that I work with, and he's like late 20s, and he works for a foreign company in Korea now. And he used to work for one of the top 3 biggest companies in Korea. Okay, so I won't give you the name, but those. And he told me that the Korean company paid 50% more in salary, but he said it was 100% more work. So he told me, if I go by on an hour basis, so he told me that for this, he works for an American company, or he did when I knew him. He said that his hours is about 50 per week. 50. And he never goes more than that. And so, and he says, like, there's this kind of it's culture. There's a cultural expectation that when you do your work, you fit it within that time. And if it doesn't fit, then you roll it over to next week, even if you can't meet the deadline. He said when he was working for this, again, very large Korean company, he was paid well, but oftentimes he would get home well past 10 or 11 p.m. He worked every weekend. So if you're going to compare 2 salaries, let's make sure that the salaries are compared apples to apples, meaning like hours, a corporate culture. So for example, is it worth 20% more, 30% more salary if you have to wake up at 6 a.m. versus 7 a.m. because you have to get to work earlier? Or if you think about, is it worth it if my coworkers, okay, it's not a small thing. If I work in a company where everybody around me is pushing for deadlines and is completely stressed, is that worth 20-30% more salary? We have to think about that, right? And so make sure that when you're comparing salaries, that it's apples to apples, that it's not like, because if you just look at the number, it doesn't tell anything.
At the same time, here's an interesting phenomenon, because 20 years ago, Korean companies were usually smaller than foreign companies. And then the pay is always, almost proportional to, goes together with the company size. So smaller companies paying smaller amount, foreign companies were paying better than Korean companies. That was the norm. But nowadays, Korean companies grew up so much so that they are able to pay a lot, sometimes more. No surprise. But at the same time, the scope of work and the scope of potential of international expansion, I think that's where the foreign companies are better still now. You can maybe look for opportunities in Asia headquarters later on, or going to the global headquarters and get promoted over there, like Yoon Sung, working for Seoul Goldman Sachs, and then move to Hong Kong Goldman Sachs, and then God knows, where he will go, right? Likewise, there's a lot of opportunities in the labor market.
For sure. So, and it's also like for young people, especially if you're like 1 to 2 years out of work, you might want to work in a not so desirable location. For example, let's say you don't like the cold, but maybe there are more opportunities to work in places like Russia or former Soviet bloc countries like, like Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan or, these kind of places, so that you can sort of go up the ladder. Because in a place that's not as popular, again, colder countries are usually less popular. In these places, the applicant pool is much smaller. Also, they're going to promote you faster. And, it's hard for us old guys to do it. But for young people, you can sleep anywhere. You can do anything. And I'm not telling you, I'm not telling you to give up your 20s, but to really consider a more global perspective and go to a place maybe that's a little bit harder to live for you, and really cut your teeth there. And then after 2, 4, 5 years, get the experience, and then come back. And I think that's a strategy that young people don't think about that much. They're like, well, I want to get a cush job in Gangnam and whatever, right? So like if they thought about this a little bit more, just with a little bit of sacrifice, they can, the whole goal is to learn these skills. And they wouldn't get those skills here in Korea, because they would be one of 10,000 that are qualified. But maybe in another place, they'll be just one of 100, and they'll be given more opportunities.
The thing is that when you are in 20s and 30s, you can enrich your human capital in different culture, different countries for a lot. So that's where you can.
It's another side note, but it's interesting that when you look at, for people like people of our age, people 40s, almost 50, right? So people of this age, what we find out is that for most of us, we stop networking. Our circle doesn't grow. It stays exactly the same. And you keep it that way. And even for most of us, most of our networks were established when we were younger. And the fact is, it's so much easier to establish networks when you're younger.
In your age,
in the 20s. And of course, like I feel like I have a big network. I've traveled a lot. But I think I'm the exception. I think for most people, the networking kind of stops in your 20s. And so what that means is there's a golden opportunity, especially for our Korean students, maybe to go elsewhere and network with like someone from Thailand, someone from Singapore, someone from Russia, someone
you can drink like crazy,
different places, just learn new skills.
And then Chang Jong-un, I am interested in working at the IBD after graduation, investment banking division. And in August, I'm expected to get a CPA license. Congratulations! And I have 1 to 2 years before graduation. So you want to get some work experience. Can you recommend anything that can help me develop my future career in my undergraduate level? Anything. Me? Is it? So
Go for it. You can
what I heard, CPA, great. if you got, it's PwC or accounting firms, they have the investment banking related divisions there, M&A advisories. Perhaps you can get some internship over there, and then start working, and then a couple of years later, you will be you will be wanted from other investment banks as well, a lot more. So the Morgan Stanley director once told me about it. A lot of guys in Korea start their investment banking work from PwC M&A division or some places in these kind of accounting firms M&A departments. So maybe that's one of the things you can try it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
I think another thing that you might want to consider is, if you're interested in investment banking, is to try to cut your teeth again, meaning try to go for a smaller company. Korea has many smaller funds. So I'm talking like these are companies that have maybe employees between 4 to 15. And so if you get into this kind of company, of course, you're not going to get the benefits of working for like a big IBD. You're not going to get that. But you will get the experience.
Right.
And so be able to work maybe even at a lower salary, and to network there and to learn these skills. And then now you have something to show. You don't just have like an A in his class. You have, I worked for 2 years for this private fund, and this fund has such and such. So that's something that students a lot of times don't want to consider, because they want to hit a home run using a baseball, and they want to hit a home run as their first job.
I want to hit the home run in
and
my
I'm
first
saying
shot.
just if that doesn't work out, sure, sometimes it works out, but it doesn't always work out.
Right.
So get on base. On base. Work for a smaller company.
Relax.
Take a lower salary. Live with mom and dad. Eat more tteokbokki and kimbap for a while. Don't buy a nice car, a nice watch, but it's just a few years. Just sacrifice for a few years.
Some experience first,
and then,
right.
And you'd be surprised that sometimes these small companies, their 사장님들, their 대표님들, I mean, they're 대표s, they're CEOs of smaller companies. They actually, depending on their age, a lot of them are well connected. They might have worked for Hyundai Capital. They might have worked for Mirai Assets. They might have, they might have done that when they're younger, and now they're doing this smaller company. Sometimes it's a hobby business.
Right.
Sometimes it's their own money, which means they're very wealthy. So so working for a few years for a smaller company, I'm not sure why a lot of Korean students don't go this route.
One of the things,
is it because this is a good school? So maybe you can explain to me. Is it because we're a top school? Hey, we are a top school. Right? So is that everyone wants to work for Samsung or work for like one of these top?
Maybe they want to impress their parents.
Yeah, right.
Maybe
that's very important.
Okay.
My daddy, mommy recognizes Samsung only. So that's why maybe you're stuck with Samsung.
Yeah.
But it's a complete waste of time, right? Forget about that. So
it's so competitive. So hard to get a job.
The thing is, it doesn't matter, right? In the end, the students, you will take care of your parents later on. They are not responsible for your life. And then a lot of great friends of mine who work for McKinsey and then Boston Consulting or Bain, those guys are, now working as a CEO of those mid-sized companies.
Yeah.
And they are well networked.
Absolutely. Yeah, very much so.
And then, can give you a lot of advice, better than I do.
Advice, and then they could apply to another job later.
Right.
And here's the thing: is that sometimes like people work for these smaller companies,
right?
And then later on they find out, I don't want to work for a big company. The small company gives you flexibility,
a lot more scope,
and especially
brain.
and we have no idea. Sometimes small companies become big companies,
right?
and you grow with the company,
right?
You get promoted with the company. So I think that this is an option that I just wish more of our students would consider.
Yeah.
But at this university, most of them don't want that. Most of them want, take it up. They want like big companies. They want big brand name. They want to be able to do that. And that's good. I mean, of course, we're happy.
Yeah.
If you get a job if you work for Google or Samsung, we're very happy. But, to consider smaller companies, I think, and they have their own place in the sort of business ecosystem. Yeah. The
students need to open up their minds, I guess.
So the thing is that you don't need to rule out the possibility that you may have equal or more opportunity when you work for a small company.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this is another thing. One of my so I know a young Korean. He's late 20s, early 30s, and his company asked if he would be willing to move to Mongolia. And obviously, he doesn't want to live in Mongolia. Mongolia is cold. It's very spread out. And he asked me, "What should I do?" And I said, "You should pack your bag and go there tomorrow." Because just 2 to 3 years. And your career, because he would be the head of a group there in Mongolia. Right. In Korea, he's just another number. He's just another guy. But over there, if you go there, he would get leadership experience. He would get experience that he wouldn't get. And it's not because, it's not Mongolia specifically. It's just that this company's presence there is smaller. So they would basically make him like a country director. Yeah. So he has things, he could learn skills there that, and let's face it, look, a lot of you think 30 is old, but when I think about when I'm 30, man, that was young. Life is long. Life is long.
Let me grab some water.
Yeah, and for and this is what's funny is that they keep on saying this generation is going to live to 100. Yeah. Us three have to retire at 65 because that's Korean government law. But maybe for you, you're going to retire at 85. So it's okay to slow down, get more work experience, and really consider smaller companies. Right. And you're going to learn things that, and okay, lastly, let me give you, here's the difference, right? If you work for a smaller company, for Koreans, we know this term 맛집, right? Like a specialty restaurant. Maybe this restaurant doesn't have a big menu. Maybe they don't have a lot of like offerings, and maybe it's not fancy. Maybe the air conditioning is not good, but they have one dish that tastes really good. And people will go there. They will travel to eat that one dish. And sometimes small companies like this, maybe it's crappy this, it's not good here, but they usually have one, what's the word? Chang? Is that right? One pro, one benefit, right? Killer dish. Yeah, they have something really good that you can learn from that you cannot get. You can't get from a larger company. So, so Jung-hun, that would be my advice to you. Open your eyes to much smaller companies.
This is great, actually, Jung-hun. I mean, what I found for those students who got their CPA before graduation is that they get so much exhausted, and then they just lose interest in whatever, career or whatever. I'm a CPA. They don't study until graduation because I'm guaranteed to get a job in PwC, whatever. But we have to be awake, and you are the ones who is awake, and then try to go for even better opportunity. That's super. That's great. That's great. So I'm very happy to see that. And what else? I mean, we had so much to discuss.
I mean, we don't have to finish it. We can come back for another time. Right. So.
What can students do to prepare for life outside the university after graduate?
After they graduate. Yeah, so I came up with a question because I was, for example, I was very surprised at how many business students know nothing about personal finance. They know nothing about things like investing. They know nothing about things like how to balance their budget, how to live on less. They know nothing about this. And of course, it's funny that we don't teach this, right? We don't teach these skills.
Well, and we don't have good teaching. I don't know. I mean, for academically, right? We are much more focused on the corporate side of finance instead of personal level of finance. And if you ask me about my personal financing, I mean, I have to ask my wife about it.
We have a PhD in finance,
but that's a limitation. But,
well, the reason I bring this up is because people who don't have a hand, and it's not just personal finance, but just trying to think about what life is like, and again, as we talked about earlier, is just preparing beforehand. Right. Just knowing these little basic things, and of course, we have YouTube now. You can look things up, and there's some expert giving some good advice on this topic.
Right.
But personal finance is something that I think a lot of students really don't think about. Like just the basic investing, knowing the options that are out there, or even things like living on less. Like should I live up to like 90% of my budget? Should I live to 70%? Should I live to 50? Like these learn to live on less, and how when we compound things like savings, things like investing. So these are things that I think a lot of students don't think about. That would be my advice, to just watch some YouTube videos
and perhaps take my class.
Yeah, take this class and
behavioral finance and fintech.
Yeah, and learn these kind of skills that unfortunately we don't have, like a personal finance 101.
No schools in Korea have that kind of class, I believe.
I know schools in the United States have that either. This is all like people don't do this.
And talking about
what about the Department of Home Economics?
가정경제학, it's like a 서울대 가정경영 was kind of a 김난도 교수 thing, right? Maybe they have it.
Yeah,
maybe.
But would our students take those classes? Probably not. I doubt it. They're too busy, like someone studying for the CPA. You know, they don't have time. You know,
But we need to develop, I guess, like essentially rich dad, poor dad kind of book is there.
I mean,
why don't we teach that?
I mean, they can choose how they want to live, but I think a lot of the students, they just don't realize, like, for example, in Korea, personal debt, household debt I think it's the highest in the whole world.
And it actually goes together with
just those kind of little things, you know?
The real estate price, the 대치동 아파트.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Extremely high. And then especially guys feel a lot more pressure because it's a social norm, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but the guys they have to prepare for a house kind of things when they get married.
I mean, it's impossible. What is it?
Silly. I didn't do that, by the way. Me, I no house. Still got married.
Yeah.
But most of the Korean people have that kind of social pressure, and then which.
But how's that possible? Like, Korean salaries have gone up like less than 50% in whatever the last 8 years, but houses have gone up like 400% or some ridiculous number, you know?
It's going to go even higher from now on.
It's like a completely disconnected reality for young people.
That's pressuring our students as well in their getting jobs and then the meeting girlfriends or boyfriends and things like that.
Yeah, and we all know what the number one social problem in Korea is. It's lack of children.
Lack of children.
That's a separate issue. You know, we can talk about like economic policies that come from lack of children, how it impacts business, but for sure, we can agree that their tax rate is going to be much higher than ours.
Right.
Because
At the same time, I think we also need to have some kind of finance education about real estate investment.
I think so.
부동산 투자. It's like, I never learned about it.
Yeah.
Nobody learns.
At least know the options that are out there, because.
But that's my personal view. I may be wrong. So some different professors may have different ideas.
Yeah.
Any other things in the outside?
We could talk about it another time. We've already gone over an hour, so.
Yeah. Great.
Oh, we're so glad that people were able to join us.
It's already 1 hour and 17 minutes past. So Yongbin has another question. This is my additional question. What do you think of relative advantage of AI compared to human in the investing area? AI, artificial intelligence, right? Computers, advantage, data processing, information processing speed,
like picking certain
reinforcement learning kind of things. Pattern recognition, they are faster, and then maybe they may be able to find some new patterns that we never noticed before. So that's where the AI could add value. But there's are other potential negative side of it as well. So it's a plus and minuses, right?
I mean, AI has been so interesting when it comes to predicting these things, because there's things that it can't predict, like war.
Right.
Like how the supply chain was so messed up because of this war in the Ukraine.
Yeah.
You know, and how long is it going to go for? What's the future look like?
Right.
And yeah, it's fascinating.
And one of the pitfalls, as you said, like Joseph said, right? The AI is based on historical data usually. So what is out of that data is totally, black swan for us.
Yeah.
Right. Total shock. Right. So,
but there's a related question when it comes to AI to job applications. For example, companies are doing this now. So you know how like when students apply for jobs, normally They would write a cover letter, upload a resume, and then they get an interview, right? So you know what companies are doing now? Now what they're doing is they're requiring you to upload an interview first. But using AI, companies like HireVue, you can look it up, HIREVUE, HireVue. What they do is they have these AI points to figure out, are you a good speaker? Do you use good keywords? Do you look confident?
Are you telling lies?
Yeah, are you telling the truth? Right. And so they use that as a filter already to figure out that and your resume now together. Then you interview. So the AI doesn't replace a human, but what they're doing is they're putting the interview at the very beginning of the application because there's too many candidates. So they have to whittle down the number of candidates to a manageable amount.
AI is used as a filtering process.
As a filter, that's right. So, and you can filter people by anything. I mean, I bet you like companies can filter by what they ate for breakfast, whether they wear glasses or not. I mean, there's some useless filtering that they can do, and you can still get a candidate pool from that. But companies like HireVue, especially in their future, in the next few years, this is already coming. I've already had students ask me, they're like, Professor, how do I prepare for an AI interview?
And some of my students already did those AI interviews.
It's very common. It's starting to become common.
Before,
it's very becoming very common.
And also it goes together with my research in finance as well. The CEO's facial expression kind of things. And then the language that you choose, that he or she chooses, exactly applied to the job applicants.
For sure.
Lie detection kind of things. So good, great, interesting questions as well.
Okay. That was good. So we're so glad that we had 1 hour and 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
We hope this was a useful time to students. It was fun talking. Let's try this again. We're testing this to see if maybe we can use this as a platform for discussion. Maybe even a guest speaker, because this chat room is great.
And your channel, YouTube channel, you also manage your channels.
But it's not as famous as yours.
Mine is not easy.
So he's Dr. Finance. I'm Dr. Joseph Kim 7, like Power 7. So we hope to keep on doing stuff like this to give. We just want to help our students and help you navigate this difficult world. I mean, not that we're experts, but we have more experience.
We are going together,
and we've lived longer and we have more experience.
With our experience. Great. Thank you very much.
Good seeing everybody.
Great to see you guys.
Take care, and hope to see you again.
Hope to see you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And stop it over here. Thank you. All right.
Bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.